Welcome back to AFGE's Inside Government, available on demand at InsideGovernmentRadio.com. We've been joined by Bob Weiner. Bob is the former Chief of Staff of the House Aging Committee and Health Subcommittee, as well as a Clinton White House former senior staffer. Bob, welcome back to the program.
Jason, it's a pleasure to be with you, and thanks for bringing out the truth and the facts and the working people's view, which is what you do so amazingly well, and no one else does it better.
Let's talk a little bit about some of that truth and fact. We're here today. Yeah. The Supreme Court is starting its close look at the health care law. What are your initial impressions?
Well, I think, unfortunately, you're not going to get a bunch of protests and persuasion to ever get somebody like Clarence Thomas to vote for this bill. His wife is an ambassador to the Tea Party movement, and they took money from the other side and violated the judicial ethics, which the Supreme Court says they don't have to pay any attention to. So most of the conservative bloc has, in fact, spoken. My take, Jason, is different from many other people in the liberal ranks. Mine is not, here's why we should go for the bill. Of course the court should vote for the bill and the merits. My take is that the worldview politics of this court and their appointees is what's going to dominate how they bring in their votes. And I've moderated a forum, you remember, at the National Press Club, and we brought in Ken Cuccinelli, the Attorney General of Virginia, and Martha Coakley, the Attorney General of Massachusetts. And Ken Cuccinelli, the Attorney General of Virginia, conceded that the world political view of the appointees that created their membership in the Supreme Court will play a role in the way that they consider the case. My hope, however, is that this is not a case where rich guys in robes with federal health insurance themselves have no clue about poor and average people who need, and many wouldn't have, adequate health insurance without this bill that it took generations for Congress to pass.
So what are you expecting then as the week goes on and then ultimately a decision is made sometime in June?
I think the best case scenario that we're going to get is that they will, not because of the merits, because you can talk about the merits of the mandate with Social Security and the Civil Rights Act and Medicare and all of the precedents and the wheat bill from whatever year that was that they said that the wheat farmer, you have all the precedents for the mandate. But this court, if you look at Citizens United and Bush v. Gore, just votes 5-4 on the basis of their political views. So I think the best case scenario that we're going to get is that the mandate get overthrown, but they at least allow what Congress has been able to do since time immemorial, which is specific provisions of providing benefits for people. Because if they take away, it's hard to imagine the court blocking Congress's provision of benefits already underway, their children's care through age 26, cheaper and free drugs for 45 million seniors, pre-existing conditions covered, no lifetime caps, no being thrown off if sick, free prevention including mammograms for women and colonoscopies for men and women, and overseeing insurance companies who've doubled their rates every 10 years and assuring that 85% of the benefits go to people's benefits. Those provisions, if the court takes those benefits away, it's absolutely inexcusable, unprecedented, and I don't think that the American people will stand for it.
So what do you think then the American people would do if those provisions were taken away?
I think that will be a case if we argue our message well, and unfortunately Democrats have not done it very well. Clooney said that Republicans have a great message machine with all the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of propaganda, and Democrats don't. But if we argue our message well, we can not only take to the streets and mobilize, but it's really going to help Obama win re-election by if they make the point that the provisions of this bill, which are hugely supported in the polls, unlike the buzzwords of is it big government, but the provisions of the bill, if we make our message well, we can win the election on that basis.
You're listening to AFGE's Inside Government, and we're speaking with Bob Weiner, a former Clinton White House senior staffer. Bob, you more than anyone understand the political implications of issues like these. What do you think is coming down the road in that regard?
Well, it strikes me that before every time there's a health care bill, whether it was Hillary's bill or Clinton's bill or now Obama's bill, there is always a 15% public opinion majority of support for the bill. Then the insurance companies roll in and they put Harry and Louise on, which they did with Hillary Care under Bill Clinton, and they've done similar propaganda of big government intrusion mandate now for this bill. And suddenly they change the opinion on the bill because they don't consider the specific provisions. So I think we have got to make sure that people understand, and if there's an education process and we really do our job and we tell people about the provisions of the bill, that can be won. I remember, Jason, I was on Fox, and Fox tried to cut me off from ticking off the provisions of the bill. The children through 26, the cheaper drugs for seniors, the pre-existing conditions, no lifetime caps, no being thrown off if sick, the free mammograms and colonoscopies. I was ticking off the provisions, and they said, we don't want to talk about that. It's a job killer. It's not a job killer, by the way. This bill saves money and creates jobs in the healthcare field. But they wanted to say that, and they wanted to defuse it. So Jon Stewart picked up on it, made a joke of it, and put me on his show with Weiner, what part of we don't want our viewers to know what's in the bill don't you understand? And I remember being on an airplane before I went on Fox telling the steward, on the flight attendant on the plane, here are the provisions of the bill, and he said, gee, if we knew that, I'd be for the bill. But the Republicans try to block that. Try to get the provisions of the bill ticked off anytime you're talking to Republicans and, oh, it's big government, it's intrusion, and it's telling us what to do with our lives. We don't have government in health care. I just got my letter from Medicare because I'm about to turn 65, and it says, you will pay for your Medicare, and we're taking the money from your Social Security. That's what the letter says. And I have to go through contortions to say, no, I want to keep my health care insurance if I want to keep it the way it is without Part B of Medicare. You have to go through all hell and back to not do it. Or the mandate of what the Republicans are doing now, of the forced transvaginal ultrasound in Rick Perry's Texas and Bob McDonnell's Virginia, and then the Doonesbury final column that says the final indignity, here's the bill. What's that? Not a mandate? You're forced to pay for something you don't even want? So the Republicans cause a mandate. They call it a mandate if it's something that Obama wants that's good for the American people. But if it's something they want, it's not a mandate.
Bob, what are the implications here of the election in 2012?
Well, they're huge, but we could blow it if we don't do it right. If we allow the Republicans to keep characterizing as a caricature this bill as big government at its worst, we're going to lose on that. We'll lose, as has happened in past elections when there's been health care with Hillary Care. You lose 5 points in the election that way. But if we tick off children's care through 26, cheaper drugs for seniors, pre-existing conditions, no lifetime caps, no being thrown off if sick, free mammograms and colonoscopies, and 85% of the benefits that insurance companies of the premiums go to people instead of 30% being taken for insurance company oversight. If we make those tick off those provisions, we can win. But we have to do it. It has to be a message machine from the Democratic Party. And I've been making that point. I made it to Pelosi before the last election. I make it on the White House calls that I'm on. I keep pushing that we have got to make that message, and we have to do it strongly, succinctly, and forcefully in what the American people now understand, which is sound bites. And if we allow the Republicans to take that from us and call it big government, we lose the message. If we talk about what's in the bill and the precedent for the bill, we win big time, because by 15% in a majority, the American people support what's in the bill.
When you're pushing to make sure that people understand these provisions, what kind of response are you getting?
Always people say, yeah, if we know what's in the bill, that's a great bill. That's all, unless there's always a third of the conservatives, as John Conyers said to me, are hopeless and they're just going to vote against their own interests regardless. But most people are enlightened and want to be educated and informed. And you remember we used to get 60 to 90 votes on Medicare, on Social Security, on the Civil Rights Act from the minority. It's only now, since Newt Gingrich, that it's so volatile and partisan that Republicans oppose it all the way. There are still moderate Republicans out there. And, of course, Democrats understand that this is a good thing for people. It's a hard-fought bill that we have tried for generations to enact, and now we at least have something that's positive.
Bob Weiner, former Clinton White House senior staffer, as well as the chief of staff of the House Aging Committee and Health Subcommittee. Bob, we appreciate your time and your insight, as always.
Thanks, Jason.